Welcome in to Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thank you for being here, Duval. As we all know, the Jaguars fell to the Texans on Sunday. A Texans team that entered the game 0-3-1, having lost 3 straight. They were winless on the year. The Jaguars had won 2 of their last 3. They should have been really focused coming off a disappointing and heartbreaking loss in Philly, where they really had every opportunity to take control of that game. This should not have been a game that the Jaguars were unprepared for, that they were not mentally focused on, but that's kind of how it looked in this one, unfortunately. We're going to get into my top takeaways from this contest right now. I know a lot of people want to burn it all down. A lot of people are very upset with the Jaguars, with Trevor Lawrence, with the coaching, with everything. And I think there's reason to be upset from that performance yesterday. It was an ugly one in a lot of ways. But we're going to try to take a measured approach and looking at this. We're going to try to really break things down, not to make you feel better about anything, not to make you feel worse about anything, but to present what actually happened here yesterday and what is happening with this football team that's now 2-3. They've lost 9 straight to the Texans, and they've went in one day from first place in their division to third. We're going to break it all down right now with my top takeaways. Follow me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and if you want to support the channel further, go pick up a new hat or shirt at genjag.com. You can also become a channel member. Really appreciate y'all's support. So for me, we're going to start with the passing game here. The Jaguars decided to throw the ball 50 times in this one. Drop back almost 50 times. 47 attempts for Trevor Lawrence. 47 throws for Trevor Lawrence. Starting with Trevor. You have the Texans playing a lot of soft zone coverage, a lot of cover 2. If you remember, that did give Trevor some issues during his rookie year in 2021. But he was unwilling too often in this contest to check the ball down, to take the short stuff, to take what the cover 2 looks are giving you. And the cover 2 defense is designed to prevent big plays down the field. It's trying to put a roof over the offense. The Texans did that for the most part in this one. They executed fairly well on the back end, but there was opportunities for Trevor Lawrence to take the check down, to take the underneath throws. Far too often he did not do that. He just kept wanting to push the ball, which is tough. Because again, that's what cover 2 is trying to stop. That is what it is designed to stop. And instead of taking the check downs, instead of, in my opinion, he could have ran the ball a couple more times, certainly on the interception in the end zone. Trevor just kept forcing the ball, unfortunately for the Jaguars. I do think if they simply had a quarterback in this contest who was willing to take more of those check downs when they were there, willing to run the ball a little bit more, you're probably looking at a win. Probably looking at a win if Trevor Lawrence just checks the ball down a few more times, if he does not throw that interception in the end zone, if he instead on 2nd and 1 in the red zone either takes that ball and runs with it, which it looked like he would have been able to get a first down based on that situation, or even just throw the ball away and live to fight another day. Either of those would have been much more preferable than forcing. You have a flood concept, you have 3 tight ends, 13 personnel, and you're just flooding the right side of the field. You do not have the numbers advantage there. There's 4 Texans defenders in zone coverage. There's only 3 Jaguars receivers. No one's open. You cannot throw that ball if you're Trevor Lawrence. Gifted Derek Stingley that interception. Early Christmas present for the number 3 overall pick. He really needed to tuck it and run on that one. Really needed to do that for the Jaguars, and he didn't. It's unfortunate. Young quarterback, big mistake. Speaking of decisions, poor decisions, big mistakes, I counted 6 really poor decisions from Trevor in this game. I think 3 or 4 of them were just not taking what was there again on the underneath stuff. I think a couple of them were timing based, where if he had gotten the ball out just a hair quicker, it's a completion. Um, and then, a couple, the one in the end zone, that was just a poor decision. It's a really bad decision by Trevor Lawrence. So basically, I think it came down to timing. I think it came down to not taking what was there. And then, of course, the interception in the end zone was just inexcusable, really inexplainable. Absolutely no reason to throw that football. And he admitted as much, and so did Doug Peterson after the game. But one thing I think we need to realize here, you cannot pretend that the Jaguars offense was not moving the ball. And Trevor was not doing a lot of good. Like, he did some great things in this game. He made more than a handful of really good throws down the field in this contest. But the mistakes outweighed the positives for Trevor Lawrence in this one. And the Hail Mary, Fail Mary, whatever, that's a low percentage play. I'm not worried about that. Usually that's not going to end in your favor when you're having an attempt to Hail Mary from that far away. So I'm not concerned with that. Really, for when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, it's just taking what the defense is giving you at times when you need to do that, and not forcing the issue. Certainly not in the red zone, which he did today, unfortunately. And there was one where he was staring James Robinson down out of the backfield in the flat, right around the line of scrimmage. Easily had the check down. Does James Robinson get a first down or a touchdown on that? I'm not sure. But does he get positive yards? He certainly does. Instead, after staring right at James Robinson on the left side, flips his head upfield, nothing there, throws the ball away essentially. You had it right there, Trevor. You just got to take it. Got to take it. Pretty frustrating stuff from that perspective for Trevor Lawrence. Second-year quarterback, still a young quarterback. You expect ups and downs for young football players. You expect some variance. But he certainly cost his team in a variety of ways on Sunday. No question about it. Looking at the receivers, they cost their team as well. I counted 7 drops. I went back and watched the entire game today. 7 drops for Jaguars receivers. That is unbelievably bad. And when given one-on-ones, they were not winning at a high enough clip the last 2 weeks. Disappointing day from them. Marvin Jones was effective, and he had a big day, but other than that, there was a lot of inconsistency. You had Zay Jones dropping multiple passes. You had Dan Arnold dropping one. Jamal Agnew dropping one. Travis Etienne dropping one. Etienne dropped 2 passes, actually. Evan Ingram dropped one. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. 7 drops. When you have a quarterback that makes as many mental mistakes as Trevor Lawrence did yesterday, and you compound that with receivers not catching the football, yeah, you're not going to score points. Pretty easy to see there. They've got to play better, the receiving core does. I thought overall the offensive line was pretty good. Getting into the coaching on the offensive side of the ball, to me, not getting the ball into the hands of Christian Kirk against a cover 2 team is so bad from a coaching perspective. He only had 3 targets. There are so many ways to get the ball in his hands against that soft zone coverage. 3 targets for someone getting paid $18 million when everyone else in your receiving core, for the most part, besides Marvin Jones, is struggling to catch the ball. It's crazy to me. And that could have been a big halftime adjustment for Doug, for press. You've got to do more to get the ball into Christian Kirk's hands. Bottom line, he cannot have 3 targets in a game. Not when everyone else is struggling. And then Etienne. He is the most talented offensive weapon the Jaguars have, bar none. I'm not saying he's been the most consistent. I'm not saying that he's the best right now, but he is the most talented. I think he actually is the best. He needed to get the ball way more in the second half. Doug Peterson owned up to that, said that Etienne had to get the ball more in the second half. This was a guy averaging 7 yards per carry on the ground. Was a little loose with the football in the passing game, but still 3 catches for 43 yards. I mean, this is a player you need to feed the ball week in and week out. He provides an element to this game, to this team, to this offense that no one else really has. Sure, Christian Kirk has some speed, some playmaking, Jamal Agnew as well. But Travis Etienne's pure speed combined with his quickness, his contact balance, his elusiveness in space, that's a player you've got to get the ball more and more every week. I did think J-Rob looked a little sluggish in this one. Didn't have great blocking up front for him, but certainly not his finest performance, and didn't get the ball a ton. Both runners had 10 total carries. Again, 47 passes and 26 runs in a game that is neck and neck the whole way. I don't see that being quality coaching, quality play calling. You need to run the ball more, especially when you see Trevor's not having his best day, the receivers not having their best day. You've got Travis Etienne and James Robinson in that backfield. You can hand the ball to them. And again, for the second straight week, the Jaguars played a team that was willing to run the ball despite not having a ton of success with it for most of the game. The Eagles did the same thing the week before. The Texans did the same thing this week. They were two teams that were willing to run the ball, willing to try to play ball control and just roll with the punches in the contest. And the Jaguars have not been willing to do that. And it comes down to Doug Peterson's philosophy on, you throw to score, you run to win. I think he might need to augment or alter that philosophy slightly with this young football team, because your two best and most consistent offensive players to this point, in my opinion, James Robinson and Travis Etienne, you need to get them the football. You need to run the ball. You need to take pressure off Trevor Lawrence. And they're not doing that right now over the last couple weeks. It's pretty frustrating to see. Defensively, I thought this team played pretty damn well. They slowed Dameon Pierce down for most of that game. Again, he only had 3.8 yards per carry in this contest. You'll take that against Dameon Pierce. I know he broke 17 tackles. I think 10 of those were on that final drive. But if you only give up 3.8 yards per carry to one of the best young running backs in football, you only give up 140 yards through the air, there is no reason in the world not to win that football game from a defensive standpoint. You only allowed 13 points. If your defense allows only 13 points in this league, your offense has got to find a way to win. There's no reason in the world that the Jaguars offense shouldn't have scored more than 13 points, especially when you consider how easily they were moving the football. The Jaguars they averaged 5.8 yards per play yesterday. Unbelievable stuff. They got 422 yards of offense, the Jaguars did. They outgained the Texans by almost 200 yards, and they lost the game. Crazy. Not on the defense. And I know the defense did not hold up at the end there. I'm aware. Dameon Pierce had a hell of a last drive for the Texans. But 13 points. If your offense can't muster 13 points against the Texans, you don't deserve to win, and the Jaguars didn't deserve to win yesterday. There are some things to clean up, to be sure. Again, a lot of missed tackles. I thought overall the coverage was pretty damn good. I think Shaq Griffin was the weakest link on the back end, but even he didn't play bad football. I think Tyson played very well. I think Darius played well. Cisco and Rayshon, I think, got the job done. Things to clean up, mostly tackling, but Dameon Pierce is unbelievable. There's a reason I had an early 2 on this guy. I thought he should have been an early second-round pick. That's how talented he is. That's how much talent he showed at Florida, at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine. He's so good. Such amazing contact balance, great power, no quit in him. That's the type of player, if he's on your football team, you absolutely love him. If he's on your opponent's team, a division rival's team, you're going to grow to hate him, I'm sure. But Dameon Pierce, what a stud. Finally, last point on the defense. Trayvon. Goodness gracious, 3rd and 20. 3rd and 20 on the final, the the defining drive of the game for the Texans offense. You have them up against the ropes, and Trayvon Walker picks up just a really dumb penalty. The play's whistled dead. He continues towards Davis Mills anyways. He jumped off sides, which is why the play was whistled dead in the first place. And then he gets into the backfield and ragdolls Davis Mills to the ground. Clearly a frustrated young football player, but you can't have that. Cannot have that. So in that regard, you could say in that moment, the Jaguars defense certainly did cost them late in the game. But again, only giving up 13 points. You got to be able to score more than that. I put this squarely on the offense, but there were defensive mistakes as well. But overall, the overall defensive product was more than good enough to win this football game. The offensive product was not, because they couldn't finish drives. 422 yards of offense. I said it training camp. I said it preseason. I thought that the red zone would potentially be a problem for the Jaguars offense. It looks like that worry was founded at this point. And moving on from just solely looking at this game and kind of looking at some of the bigger picture takeaways here, the variance for this team is absolutely insane. You see it. It's not really what opponents are doing to them for the most part. It's themselves. They completely dominated 2 games against the Colts and the Chargers. And in the 3 games they've lost, they've all been 1-score games. It's been self-inflicted wounds that have cost them those games. They haven't figured out how to win a dogfight yet. They haven't figured out how to get the job done when the game is on the line yet. And that's on Trevor. That's on the offensive line. That's on the receivers. That's on the entire offense. That's not an excuse. That's a fact. It's all about doing your job in the critical moments. And far too often, what you have seen is them not doing their job, not getting it done so far this season. Thought this team was going to be ready on Sunday to defend their home field, ready to play winning football again after coming off of a loss against the Eagles in Philly, a game which they had every opportunity to go take advantage of and put themselves up 21-0 and take control of that game. But with the mistakes on the offensive side of the ball, you're just not going to get it done. That red zone offense is really, really, really disappointing at this point. Even more disappointing to me, Marvin Jones said after the game, you can't sleep on anyone. If you're telling me that this young Jaguars football team was sleeping on an opponent that they hadn't beaten in 8 straight tries, haven't beaten since 2017, that's unacceptable and that's worrisome. These Jaguars cannot sleep on anyone. But I will say, in my opinion, they've shown that they can play with anyone when they're playing good football. When they're playing their type of football, when they're executing, when Trevor Lawrence is comfortable, I think they can beat anyone. Or at least play with anyone. Maybe not the Bills, maybe not the Chiefs. But they can play with anyone. They can hang in a game against any opponent, in my opinion, when they are not beating themselves. They can also lose to the worst team in football, which right now is the Houston Texans. So it's a high variance young football team. They're still trying to figure it out. I think coaching needs to improve. I think execution needs to improve. I think focus needs to improve. And if they were sleeping on the Texans, they need to do something internally to make sure that doesn't happen. Because well-coached football teams do not sleep on their opponents. Cannot let that happen. But here's the good news, Duval. The sky is not falling. The Jaguars, again, have proven that they can play with anyone. Again, they can lose to anyone as well. But they need to find their focus. They need to learn from this. They are young. They are inexperienced. And young, inexperienced football teams usually have a lot of ups and downs. I did not expect this to be a down week, but it ended up being exactly that. And the same thing goes for young quarterbacks. It's unfortunate, but that's where we're at right now. Trevor Lawrence is 23 years old. He's only started, 20-something games in this league and did not get the type of tutelage and teaching that he needed in year one. He's getting all that now, in my opinion, but they got to find consistency at some point. But they have an opportunity to pick themselves up, back up off the mat against Indy, a team they know very well, a team they have already faced and beaten 24-0 this year. Now, Jonathan Taylor is trending towards being back for that one, and he was healthy for their Week 2 blowout against the Colts as well. Didn't play this week. But that's going to be a tough matchup in Indy. They're going to have to go up and get that one if they want to keep pace in the division. They went from first in the division to third in 3 hours. But they have every opportunity to control their own destiny still. Still play the Texans again this year. You still play Indy next week. You play the Titans twice. If you take care of business inside your division, you're going to have a shot to get the job done down the stretch. And I still think this is a team that has every opportunity to win their division. Every opportunity to compete for the playoffs and end this season having been a resounding success. It's all right there in front of them. We've seen the talent. We've seen the execution. You just didn't see it this day. They're facing real adversity here for the first time under Doug Peterson. You know, having lost to the worst team in football, having kind of been embarrassed on your home field in front of your home fans. How do you respond? That's going to be how you define this team. And you would have thought that you would have responded well after losing in Philly. But they didn't. They did not respond well. Will they respond after losing to the Texans? Is this a real wake-up call? Because, yeah, you can say, losing in Philly with the weather conditions, you can give yourself reasons that we lost that game if you're a player inside that Jaguars locker room. There's no excuse for this one. Absolutely no excuse. How do they respond? We're going to find out next weekend, again, when they go up to Indy and take on the Colts. Doug Peterson will be speaking here soon, so we'll be tuned into that. Going to try to see where this team is at from a headspace standpoint. But the bottom line is Trevor Lawrence and the receivers did not get the job done. I think the offensive coaching did not get the job done from a run-to-pass ratio, making the adjustments they need to make. Defensively, overall, very good performance. Frustrating final drive with Dameon Pierce going beast mode on the Jaguars defense, with Trayvon Walker picking up that egregious personal foul. You look at the variance for this team, it's absolutely incredible. I think they can hang with anyone. I think they can lose to anyone, and it's just going to be up to them to figure out which direction they're going to go in. The sky is not falling. They're still right there in the division. They still have everything in front of them, every opportunity to go out and show that they can be a playoff team. And the good thing right now is there's not many teams in football that are playing very consistent. You look at the Bills, you look at a couple other teams, but most of the teams in the NFL right now are just okay. It's not just the Jaguars. You've got a couple teams at the top that look really good, a handful of teams or less at the bottom that look really bad, and then there's a whole bunch of teams in the middle, and that's where the Jaguars are right now. Are they going to fall, or are they going to pick themselves back up and get back going in the right direction? We're going to find out here soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, Duval. Follow me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag, and please, if you would like and subscribe on YouTube. If you want to support the channel further, go check out genjag.com, get some gear, or you can become a channel member. We've got links in the description below. Have a great rest of your Monday, Duval.